Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We've got a super relevant lesson lined up for you today. We're going to be talking about how to handle disagreements with wisdom and, well, a whole lot of grace. If you're an 8th grader navigating middle school right now, you already know that friendships can get pretty complicated and opinions fly fast. So let's take a look at what the Apostle Paul teaches us in the book of Romans about getting along, honoring God, and figuring out our differences without tearing each other down.
So let me ask you this. Have you ever gotten into a massive argument with a friend over something completely ridiculous? Seriously, think about it. Maybe you had a heated debate over which video game is the absolute best, or whether pineapple actually belongs on pizza, or the single best way to spend a Saturday afternoon. As 8th graders, you've probably realized by now just how incredibly easy it is to get sucked into a fight over an opinion that honestly doesn't actually matter in the long run. We just end up pouring so much energy into needing to be right.
Okay, here is our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the disagreement dilemma, move on to the Romans 14 core command, look at meat versus vegetables. Yep, you heard that right. Understand work-in-progress salvation, see what it means to be walking in love, and finally wrap things up with how to become the godly learner. All right, let's jump right into section 1, the disagreement dilemma. You see, we often get totally caught up disputing what Paul calls doubtful things. So, what exactly are they? Well, they're basically matters of personal conviction or preference where believers might disagree, rather than the core truths of salvation. A core truth is something massive, like Jesus is Lord. A doubtful thing, on the other hand, is just a personal choice. It's like your style of music, or the clothes you wear. And these choices can easily distract us from what truly matters if we start demanding that everyone share our exact preferences. Moving right along to section 2, the Romans 14 core command.
This brings us to our memory verse for the day, Romans 14:1, and it's a real game changer. It says, "Receive one who is weak in the faith, but not to disputes over doubtful things." This is a clear command to warmly welcome other believers without starting arguments over personal opinions. Notice how it doesn't say receive them so you can correct all their preferences. No, it says to welcome them, and specifically to avoid dragging them into endless disputes.
So the bottom line is this: God is the master. We've got to remember that we aren't the judge of another person's faith. You don't have to be the spiritual referee for your classmates or your friends. God alone is the master, and He is the one who helps His servant stand firm. When we try to play God by judging someone else's harmless personal preferences, we're literally stepping into a role that doesn't belong to us. We just need to trust that God is working in their lives the exact same way He's working in ours. Okay, section 3. This is where it gets highly practical. Meat versus vegetables.
To explain this, Paul uses a super relatable example from his own time. Picture two people. Believer A thinks, hey, I can eat all things, including meat. But believer B, they've got a personal conviction to eat only vegetables. Now, Paul points out that neither one of them should despise or judge the other. Why? Because both of them belong to the Lord. Believer A shouldn't look down on believer B for being overly strict, and believer B shouldn't point fingers at believer A and call them unholy. They are both eating with a heart that genuinely wants to honor God. The food isn't the point here, the heart is.
That brings us right into section 4, work-in-progress salvation.
This is a massive concept for your spiritual growth. Work-in-progress salvation is this ongoing journey where a believer continually learns to obey God personally and learns to treat others with love. We are all in a state of work-in-progress salvation. For you, as an 8th grader, that simply means none of us are perfect yet. You're still learning, your friends are still learning, and we are all just figuring out how to honor the Lord from the heart. Growth takes time.
And because we're all still growing, we actually have some specific responsibilities to each other. A strong believer should not be proud, and a weaker believer should not be judgmental. Basically, if you feel super confident in your freedom in Christ, you've got to drop the pride. Don't show off, and definitely don't look down on others. On the flip side, if you're cautious or feel weak in certain areas, you need to drop the judgment. Stop pointing fingers. Everyone just needs to focus on living to please the Father. So what does this actually look like in real life? Section 5. Walking in love. Instead of constantly trying to prove that we're right about these doubtful things, living out truth and obedience requires us to walk in 3 specific ways: love, humility, and patience. Love means genuinely wanting the best for the other person. Humility means not needing to be the smartest or the rightest person in the room. And patience? That means giving people the time and space to grow, just like God gives you time and space to grow. These three things are absolutely the best antidotes to silly arguments.
Think about your daily interactions for a second. How can love and humility actually help you live in peace with your friends? When you choose to act with love and humility, instead of desperately needing to win a debate, how does that transform your friendships? It changes everything. It turns a potential fight into a moment of mutual respect, and it builds trust instead of tearing it down. All right, let's tie all of this together in our final section, the godly learner.
Here's a truth bomb for you. True intelligence is using your knowledge to make wise, God-honoring choices. Gaining knowledge shouldn't just make you more capable of winning arguments. If you're a straight-A student, but you use those smarts to mock other people over doubtful things, well, you've completely missed the point of true intelligence. Romans chapter 8 tells us that keeping the mind spiritually minded leads to life and peace. That is exactly why your academic excellence has to always be anchored in God, in truth, and in righteous choices. When your mind is spiritually minded, you bring life and peace to your classroom, rather than a bunch of stress and arguments. So, I want to leave you with this challenge. How will you step up today and show genuine patience and kindness to someone who is still growing in their faith? Because ultimately, this is why HeroesMart Academy intertwines biblical morality with education. Education without morality can actually hurt. Knowledge and intelligence should help you make wise, God-honoring choices rather than simply make you more capable. Just like Romans 8 teaches us, keeping the mind spiritually minded leads to life and peace. So, I encourage you to pursue academic excellence, but do it while keeping your mind completely centered on God, truth, wisdom, and righteous choices. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.